Welcome to another podcast with Nicole Chanis and 50's AF. Today's guest is a wonderful, intelligent trial attorney. Yeah, I think I'm going to be in the hot seat today. And I want to give a warm welcome to Steve Osber. Welcome to coming to 50's AF today.
Happy to be here, Nicole. Great to see you.
Thank you. So I know I'm going to be asking questions, and I know he's going to hit me with some zingers, and I'm going to go with it. So first of all, obviously he's here because he's single. And how long have you been single and dating?
I've been divorced for 13 years and out of my last serious relationship for just over a year.
How's the dating life going?
It's an interesting ride. I took some time after my relationship and just spent time with friends, found my balance, did things that made me happy, and then developed momentum from there and started slowly and picked up and played with the apps and got set up with by people that were friends. And it's been interesting getting to know people in a different life stage in your 50s and being single and meeting people who are also single with the same mentality. It's not like dating in high school, not like dating in college, not like dating after law school. It's a different mentality, different mindset. It's a different attitude, and it's way different generations.
So what has been the biggest surprise for you in this journey in dating?
You know, learning about the different types of women, the personalities, the mindsets, the attitudes, the philosophies. You're dealing with, I've learned that you're dealing with real people. I mean, they're truly down to earth, real, legitimate
Wait,
people.
did you say down to earth in Southern Florida? I mean,
sure, there's definitely some muck that you have to walk through.
Yeah.
But when you find people that are challenging and entertaining to interact with, whether they're friends or whether they're women that you're dating or people at the grocery store, it's a nice, refreshing type of interaction to have. I'm a sarcastic guy. I love having sarcastic, banter with people. It's intelligent, it's quick-witted, it's sassy, it's fast on your feet. And that's the type of interaction that develops a real relationship because it's not rehearsed. It's not, well, what should I say to this person? And you think about it for 20 minutes before you respond with a text. It's immediate, and it just shows who you are as a real person.
So when you meet someone on a dating app, for example, how long do you interact there versus I just want to get and meet the person?
So I started on the dating apps actually the beginning of the year.
This year?
A mutual friend of ours had recommended them, and I was against it. I just thought it was too canned, but I went on it. It started for entertainment purposes, just to say that I was doing it, to see what it was about.
Is it a little bit like a candy store?
Candy store, an obstacle course, a haunted house, roller coaster.
I like the haunted house concept.
All kinds of things. And what I learned immediately is you have to demand immediate proof of life, because if you've been catfished one time and it happens a second time, then you're a knucklehead. Because
so you were catfished?
I was catfished one time.
What happened?
Early
Do you mind sharing the story?
No, it's a great story. So I was chatting with this woman on one of the dating apps. She sent pictures, and we talked a bunch of times, and we made an arrangement to meet. And what I saw in the pictures was an athletic, 5'7",
5'7",
attractive woman who seemed to have everything together. And we had conversations, we had good banter, and we made arrangements to meet. And
so you've already spoken. It wasn't just over online talking.
It was telephone calls.
Okay,
so
you knew it was a female voice. Okay,
yeah, I heard her voice. Okay. Got a sense of her personality by how she talked, and it was a lively banter. So it was real conversation. And we met at a bar, and she sent me a picture of where she was standing so I would know what to look for. And I got to the bar, and I looked around, and I saw nobody that resembled the person that was in the picture. And
seriously?
I stood there, I ordered a drink.
But she sent you a picture while she was standing there.
Well, apparently the picture was 7 or 8 years ago, and 2 or 3 kids before 2 or 3 kids, and her body had changed.
Yeah.
And what I saw in the pictures was not what was before me. And so I was polite. I bought a drink. We had a conversation. And then I left. And I made sure she got home okay. And she said, "You mean this is it?" And I said, "Well, if you can't tell the truth about who you are, especially when you're trying to start a relationship or get to know somebody, then you're not somebody who has street credibility with me."
Yeah, where are you going to go? I mean, I always say if you start off with a lie, where do you go? Where do you build a foundation off a lie?
And from that point on, it would never happen again. And if you're foolish enough to let it happen twice, then you have no business being on dating apps.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So, you got to have proof of life. You have to have a live interaction. It can't just be by text. Certainly, it definitely can't just be by phone. And you want to see who you're talking to so you know what type of person you're really dealing with.
So it's interesting because I'm the same way. I get slammed for saying this. I want to FaceTime you before I go on a date. Like I just find men and women post old pictures, and it's like proof of life. I think that's what you're talking about when you say proof of life.
Absolutely.
And so people are like, that's such a red flag and off-putting that I'm like, can we FaceTime? They're like, they just think that's rude that I'm asking for that, and which amazes me. And I hear from men that ask for the same thing. Women get like literally like defensive sometimes. Like, what do you think, I'm lying? Why do I have to do like a FaceTime with you? Have you ever found women to kind of fight you on that, or they're okay with it?
I found that women who do it on the social apps as a hobby, as opposed to an effort to meet someone, are reluctant to FaceTime. They just like to collect the messages. They like to collect the text or the likes or whatever it is, and the cute banter. Me personally, I was never looking for a pen pal.
Yeah, right.
I can have, look, I could go to a grocery store, I could go to a bar, I could go to a restaurant, I could go to a sporting event, I could see someone who is interesting, go up and have a conversation. I know what they look like because I'm standing in front of them.
Right.
And I can decide in 15, 20 minutes of a face-to-face conversation whether there's any sort of connection. When you're just texting back and forth, it's artificial. There's time to think. Who knows who's feeding them the information that they're responding to? There's a whole element of Wizard of Oz, if you would. There's somebody behind the curtain. You don't know who that person is.
I like that, parallel kind of Wizard of Oz concept. It really is.
It's true. It's all illusory. It's all imaginary until you get a chance to meet the person face to face. And it could be face to face through the dating apps, or face to face, coffee, bar, restaurant, whatever it is.
Do you have a preference on that first date, or you just roll with whatever
works? No, I don't. It's usually a short period of time, and then if there's an opportunity to make it go longer, then I would. But a short period of time is safe for both people. It's comfortable, and you're not in a situation where you don't want to be in too long. If it doesn't work right away, what's the point of spending an hour and a half going through a dinner when a cup of coffee, you can find out the same information? But
so like, I know I'm alone in this. Many people don't feel this way, but as a woman, when I go on a date, I want to look my best. I want to feel sexy. I want to be engaging. And for me, that's lingering over dinner or a drink, and that may lead to dinner. It's not about, I need a man to take me out to dinner. So most people are like you, like, why would I commit to a time? But the reason I do that is I always do a FaceTime first, and so I feel like by the time we're going on our date, I kind of like already know I'm interested in this person. It's not that I have a problem just putting on my workout clothes like I usually do and just go get coffee. It's just like, here's the thing, and tell me if you agree, Steve. When we were younger, because you mentioned talking about the difference about dating in high school and our 20s, we were looking for different things. We were looking for a partner to build a family, your career. And now dating in our 50s, it's not the same thing that you're looking for. And we get to be a little selfish, I like to always say. And I like to think that, I like to just have that long conversation versus the coffee thing. I don't know why. I know people don't agree with me on it, and that's men and women.
Well, there's something I have to disagree with. When we're dating in the 20s, it's about how hot the person is. That's really where it starts. The hot is what carries the relationship. The physical connection, the physical attraction was what carries the relationship for the first few months. Then you get to know that person. You get to know them intellectually and emotionally, and you decide if the relationship can carry any further.
I call that leading with chemistry, is the way we used to date in our 20s. In our 50s, it's not that way anymore. It's the reverse. It's what is this? Literally, people will ask about politics before even going on the date. And so the leading with chemistry comes after meeting now in our dating in our 50s.
Well, I learned through the serious relationships that I've had in my life that it really comes down to two things in every relationship: having peace and being happy. And if you can get that with any interaction, any personal relationship, you're in the right place. And so in a half hour time, 45 minutes, you can have a conversation and decide, is this person going to give me drama, or are they going to make me feel peace? Am I going to be happy, or am I going to be aggravated, interacting with these people? And you can tell that in a half hour, 45 minutes. And I think also what I learned is that one of the sexiest things is to stimulate somebody's mind. And if you give them a short attention, time to get to know each other, it gets them thinking, gets me thinking. And so
what do you mean by that? What do you mean gets you thinking? Shorter time?
Well, movie previews. You see 15, 20 seconds of a movie and you're making a decision whether that's a movie you want to see.
I get you.
And so if you're having a half hour interaction with somebody you first meet, you're making a decision in your mind whether there's going to be a second or a third or a fourth. And the first one leads to the second one, and the second one leads to the third one, and then it goes down the road depending on what you're doing. But you can't make that decision by spending an hour and a half or 2 hours with somebody, because there's going to be things that you learn about that person you may not like or you may like. But if you, in the 30 minutes, you just decide that there's somebody that you want to have the next step with, then you can do that without feeling the pressure of, I'm stuck with this person for an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Not only that, you're like me, I want to be mentally stimulated. And, not everyone's like that. And so I kind of, listening to you, I'm kind of like thinking differently, because the idea of meeting someone for coffee and being like mentally stimulated, and that short term being like, oh, I'm interested, like, I'm really excited to get to know this person. There's something really sexy about that. That mental stimulation that you talk about in that first date, because it's a shorter amount of time.
Yep. And
then the other thing is, though, you have to account for is first date jitters. I mean, they happen. Do you ever get nervous, or are you pretty comfortable?
Well, it's always about, a new experience. You're going to have a little bit of anxiety, and there's going to be excitement. Now, if you're going on a first date, you've seen the person's pictures, so you have a general idea of what they looked like. You've engaged in a little bit of banter by text back and forth, and you've had the FaceTime interaction or the video interaction, so you can see them being who they are. And so you have all of those ingredients that you've formulated in your brain going, I can spend some time with this person. And then you get to see them in person. And you look about, do they have any bad habits? Do they chew with their mouth open? Do they interrupt you all the time?
Would it be a no-go if someone was chewing with their mouth open? Are you hard on those kind of rules?
There's certain rules that, yes, I am, and certain that you are become endearing or cute. But if you have someone who's constantly combative or constantly telling you you're wrong or interrupting you, and that's a first impression face-to-face, those are bad signs. But if you have someone you can look at in the face and you can see that they're smiling, and you can see that they're making eye contact, and they smell really good, and you're looking at their hair, and you're looking at their clothes. It smells delicious. You can. It's important, and those are all things that you take in to get a sense of whether there's going to be a next opportunity. But I think, one thing that you definitely have to pay attention to is your instinct, your gut instinct when you're with a person.
100%.
Most people ignore it. They're like,
100%.
There's something about this person that seems weird. Why does she keep her phone upside down? Why does she keep checking her phone and turning it upside down?
Oh, well, I have to say, I do that because I know my kids, they just turned 27, but, upside down for me, my phone is not out when I'm with someone. But if something is going on and there's potential for a phone call with where they need me, I will say to the person across from me, I'm so sorry, I have to keep my phone out. I'm keeping it upside down so I'm not seeing all the notifications. So sometimes I will do it, but I let the other person know why in those situations.
Well, communication definitely is important because people are getting to know you.
Yeah.
And there are signs that everybody has experienced in the past that makes them suspicious or a turnoff. And so if you're communicating about that, perhaps you're alleviating someone's jealousies or concerns or insecurities, whatever it may be. And like you said, you explain it.
Yeah.
I mean, the phone upside down is an example, but there's a million things.
Yeah.
They keep going to the bathroom. Do they, keep playing with their hair? Do they keep looking around to see who else is
I play
around?
with my hair.
You haven't played with it once since we've been sitting here.
It's because I don't want to move.
Well, it also shows that you're
That's
comfortable
what I do.
too. But part of my work is observing people, and so there's skills that I've developed in analyzing witnesses and things going on in the courtroom, where I can take a look at somebody to see whether they're sincere, whether there's honesty and integrity in their eyes. You can just tell these things once you start talking them. And you always start a conversation, and at the end of the conversation, ask the same questions you started at the beginning to see if the story is the same. There's all kinds of things that you can do to find out whether someone is a legitimate person that you would want to spend time with, or whether they're full of shit. Now, and there's a lot of people in South Florida who are full of shit.
You think?
Yeah.
Jeez. I call it a shit show. Yeah. I mean, literally, there are times I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going to find my person in this bullshit world where for me, I think men think like I need their money, and they just assume a single woman at 50 is looking for that. And it's like, no, dude. I get to pick who I want. I don't need you for your money. And they don't know what to do with that. That's what's really interesting. So I'm an alpha, but not in a relationship. I'm not an alpha. But, I think some men don't know what to do with a woman that doesn't need them in that way. Need them in a relationship. I want that, and I don't want to be an alpha in a relationship. And so when I'm in that dating moment and all that, I'm soft. I'm actually very old-fashioned, but I think men in South Florida don't really know how to handle a woman that really don't need them financially. Like, what's your radar on that? Like, do you feel like a lot of women kind of come at you looking like, oh, he's got it going?
I think that a lot of women have superficial desires, but there are women who are independent, career-oriented, devoted moms, devoted kids, to their parents, and are just focused on making their life the best possible in a legitimate way.
Right.
And that's impressive. I have learned in the years since I've been married to cherish friendships that I've had with women for a long period of time. And when I say that, they're just they've been friends, they're wives of good friends, there's guys I went to law school, their wives, or just people that I know, neighbors, and to have a conversation with a woman who is grounded and independent and focused, it's an impressive thing to listen to, because the mindset, the mentality there, it's pretty cool.
Thank you. I'm going to take that compliment.
and you should, because there's a lot of women who don't have that. They don't try to cultivate that type of personality. But I'm the type of guy who I want a woman who is assertive, independent, can make decisions about herself or doing something for an evening or engaging in a project or whatever they have to do, but also take on a role where they're the soft side to a guy who's a personality, driven, working hard, busts his ass, screams and yells, does that kind of stuff, and have that soft side where he can say, all right, I'm going to drop my guard. I want to be with her. I want to be able to relax and put all that crap aside and enjoy the company of just someone who's very cool. Oh, yeah, and I get the benefit of the fact that she's beautiful and she touches me really good and the sex is great and I get to show her off and I get to go out to dinner and do all these fun things as well. And you put all that package together, and it's amazing.
That's a tough package to find.
Well, if you know what your package is, now that sounds really funny. I know what my package is because I've lived with them my whole life. But if you know what the package that you're looking for, and you got to kiss a lot of frogs, both men and women, to find that. And in that 30-minute conversation, there's checks and X's that come up, and if at the end of that 30-minute conversation, there's more X's than checks, you move to the next one. But if there's a lot of checks and only a couple X's, you decide what you can live with and what you can't live with. And the things that you can't live with, that goes on your list.
I used to call it my negotiable and non-negotiable list. So
what do they call them? Green flags and red flags.
But do you know there's yellow flags?
Of course. You got to decide what color it's going to be.
No, but like I didn't know about yellow flags. And I've talked about this on podcasts before. But like that was a game changer for me, learning more about yellow flags. And that, okay, I see something, but I'm not sure it's worth seeing for a second date. It's not red and green, But one thing I want to ask you, you've said this several times, banter. What is it and how do you define banter in a relationship that makes you feel like I must have that in a relationship?
For me, being a smart ass in a polite way is dropping guard and just being a person and showing my personality. Right. And if someone can be a smart ass back, it just shows a great interaction, a type of personality. Like for me, I'm a big guy on, I could quote movie lines forever. And I could find a movie line for every situation. And if someone can come back to me with a line from that same movie that would be fitting, or responds with another, that's intellectually attractive. And to be able to have that mental stimuli, I mean, it's unique around here. In South Florida, people are very superficial, like I said, and they think it's about what kind of car you drive, how big is your house, what's your salary, what part of town do you live in, where did you grow up, what school did you go to, what career do you have. But, you could have conversations with people where you're not even talking about any of that stuff, and you're like, this person's very cool. Right. I mean, my friendships, I've had friendships, now 30, 40 years of people that I still interact with because of their type of personality. And that would be my relationship with as well. These people, the person I'm trying to get into a relationship with has to fit in with my friends. I was about to ask you, have you ever found someone that you really were like, oh, I think they're really great, and then your friends were like, dude, there's something wrong? Do you give her a chance still, or do you lean in and listen to your friends more that know you? It's that instinct. If my friends who I've developed friendships with for a long period of time are seeing something that I'm not seeing, I'm blinded by the chemistry, to use your phrase. I'm blinded by that chemistry. Well, it could be other things. You could really be aligning with her personality, so you're a little more drawn beyond the chemistry. Yeah, it's just my friends look out for me. And if they say, there's an issue there, there's a concern there, she's always telling you what to do. She's always interrupting you. Yeah. She's always trying to keep her to yourself and not letting you hang out with your friends. Those types of things. Those are, at first you're like, oh, but I like spending time with her. Right. But it's limiting, and you lose your identity. And once you're with somebody who starts taking away your identity, your friends are going to pick up on that right away. Hell yeah. Because your friends are the ones who love who you are, who love your identity, and they want to encourage that kind of behavior. It's funny you say that, because even with my kids, when they were just dating, for example, I raised my daughter very specifically. Never give up on your friends when you're dating. Never stop seeing them, because that guy can go in and out. But your friends, if you dip out, they're not necessarily going to be there if you continuously do that when you're dating. You have to be aware of that. You need to keep feeding that relationship, as well as finding time to feed this new relationship, and they're two separate things. I think so. I think that your friends help you keep it real in a relationship, where they can tell you, look, dude, you're spending way too much time, or you're being a pussy because you give her everything that she wants, or you're never saying no to her, or you're walking on eggshells around her. I mean, those are quotes anybody hears in a relationship where your friends are saying, this might not be the right person for you because of all these things, and you might be thinking to yourself, my friends don't know what they're talking about, but I can tell you, your good friends, they know what they're talking about because they're your good friends. Do you ever, as a guy,
you get some hot woman that likes you and you're feeling the chemistry and you're like, I don't see it going long term, but I'm just going to enjoy this ride for a while and just have fun. Do you still do that, or do you really like date with intent? And I don't want to date somebody that's just physical and not everything else.
My dating is with a purpose.
Yeah.
I didn't get married until I was 36. My high school years were great. My college years were great. Between college and law school was great.
You dated when you were in law school? You had time?
I wouldn't really call it dating. It was sort of temporary fixes.
Yeah.
I mean, we all had stress relief we had to relieve.
Yeah.
So, but it's a different mentality. I've had my fun. I've had my numbers. I've had my goofing around. And now I'm a lot more grounded. And again, it goes to the two basic things: being happy and being at peace. And if you're running around chasing a bunch of women and you have 9 girls that you're dating and you're trying to keep the story straight and you're trying to make plans, it's definitely not peaceful.
Yeah.
It might make you happy for a while, but eventually it's going to drive you nuts.
It's funny you say that, because that word peaceful, I was just going to ask you to define what peace is for Steve in a relationship.
It just goes by being with someone who makes you feel like you're in the right place. I mean, clothes are a great example. They may look fantastic on you, but if they're tight or the button doesn't fit right or you just don't feel comfortable, I mean, you may look great with them, but you just don't feel comfortable. And when you're with somebody and you spend more and more time with that person, you'll figure out whether you're comfortable with them or not.
Yeah. I like the term I use is home. I feel like I'm home. It's like I somebody that I'm seeing that, least didn't expect to meet somebody. And our first phone call, I would tell my girlfriends, his voice, it just sounded like home. And they were like, wow. And that's the best way I can describe it. Like, it's peace for you. You use the word peace. I use the word home because
it's the same concept.
It's the same concept. Yeah. And how many dates in do you think you gauge that? Like, how many tries will you give with a woman that you're dating to make that decision of, do I feel peace?
I would say usually between 3 and 5.
Okay.
The first date is always the first date. It's awkward. It's uncomfortable. Hopefully you develop a rapport, you develop a banter, and you decide you want to go on a second date. Second date, you're planning things out. You're trying to figure out what you're going to do, how you're going to be, what do you want them to see. And by the third and fourth date, you start to let your guard down and you do things just as people, not as someone who is trying to impress somebody on a date.
Do you feel that until you take a vacation or spend a full weekend together under one roof, until you do that, you really don't know how that relationship is going to be?
No, I think what I liked, I ride Harley Davidsons. And so I'll put a woman on the back of my Harley Davidson, which is not a common experience for most women. If they've done it, that's a plus. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But to have them on the back of my motorcycle and going for a ride, knowing it's something that I love, it's a part of my life, and if you're with me on a long-term basis, it's going to be something that we're going to do. And it involves trust. It involves being in an uncomfortable situation and getting yourself comfortable with where you are and just feeling what I'm feeling while I'm on a motorcycle. It's a shared experience.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a vacation. It just has to be an experience that is uncommon for both of you, where one person may experience. It could be a cooking class. It could be, going to a zoo, holding reptiles, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If the person is into doing that, just to try it.
Right.
Look, people have their fears. If they don't want to hold a snake because they're deathly afraid of snakes, that's not a date that I'm going to put them on. But if they say, I want to try it.
Yeah.
Never held a snake before. I've never ridden on the back of a motorcycle. I've never gone fishing, or I've never jumped out of an airplane, or whatever it is. And you get that person to vibe with you while you're doing it. To me, that's when you find out whether that person is a legitimate contender for someone that you want to date.
And I got to imagine, like, sitting on the back of a motorcycle, that feeds into love language of touch and trust. Like you said, trust. But, I'm putting my arms around you. And as a man, that's like making you feel like, this woman is trusting me.
It is.
And as a woman, I could see that being sexy. There's something hot about that. A man on a motorcycle, even though like I'm scared to death of them, I could see it.
But it also involves words of affirmation, because I'm telling you, this is what's going to happen. This is what we're going to do. This is what you're going to feel. You can feel confident. I'm not going to drive crazy. I'm not going to brake. I'm not going to do wheelies. We're just going to ride. And you're going to feel the wind. You're going to smell the smells. You're going to see, the road on a completely different perspective. We're going to go out in the Everglades. We're going to go by the beach, wherever we're going to go. And it's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And you've listened to that. You've decided to get on a motorcycle. This guy sounds like he's trustworthy, knows what he's talking about. Hopefully he can ride a motorcycle. And there's a sense of calm. There's that belonging.
Yeah.
If she's on the motorcycle for 3 minutes and says, I can't do this, I'm scared, well, then I got to be respectful of that.
Yeah.
But if we can't get past that situation, it's not a relationship that's going to work, because it's something that's important in my life. It's not something that she's comfortable doing in her life. And so I understand. You're a cool person. Yeah. I like talking to you, but it's not going to work. Right. And it's not just a motorcycle. It could be any number of things. If you go out to dinner with someone and they don't like to eat, they have to just eat lettuce, piece by piece lettuce, and they won't eat anything that's on the menu, and they open up their bag and they dump out their special chicken or whatever it is.
Come on, wait. Did a woman ever do that?
Not to me, but I have a good friend that it happened to. And
do you know the story? That's kind of funny, actually.
It is. Everybody's got their peculiarities, and you have to decide whether those peculiarities are something that you can deal with.
Yeah.
Again, I'm sarcastic. I like to make smart-ass remarks.
I think that's hot,
Not
by the way.
mean, not cruel, just smart-ass remarks. Some people don't handle sarcasm, and that's okay. I'm sarcastic.
I need wit. And the other thing is, I need a man to make me laugh. Laughter is so important to me. If you can't bring that out of me, it's not going to work.
It's true.
You have that too?
It's the same for me. Yeah. You don't have to crack me up, but if you make me laugh, you make me smile with what I'm doing, or when I'm with you, there's no misinterpretation when you're laughing, if it's genuine laughter.
Right. Yeah.
You know what also drives me nuts? Is when you go out on a first date and a woman offers to split the check with you.
Oh, how does that feel for you?
Because I'm an old-fashioned guy. If I say to you, I want to go out to dinner with you, or I want to have coffee with you, don't ask me if you can split the check. I know that you're trying to be respectful. Yeah. But I asked you. I can afford the cup of coffee. I can afford the dinner. I can afford the lunch. And again, I know that you're doing to be respectful, but sometimes it's okay to be old-fashioned.
I am extremely old-fashioned. So, I get knocked for it all the time, like about guys not bringing flowers or, offering to pick me up. And every one of those people have an answer for, why it's, shouldn't expect that. But the idea that what you said about the female offering to pay half the check. On the flip side, I can't tell you how many men have told me that they like that. And I like the idea why you like it, because I think in my life, my perspective, gender roles have kind of gotten skewed a little bit in dating. And I think it's nice to be a little old-fashioned. Now, with that said, though, like if I'm dating someone for long term, I'm not making him pick up every check. I think you have to kind of every now and then as a woman pick up the check. It's just polite, I think. Right. Would that annoy you? Or?
No. Look, there's living your life together, and then there's trying to make a good first impression, a good first impression. Those are two different things. Yeah. Dating and romance and courting and finding someone, those are all old-fashioned beliefs. This whole, social media and dating apps, this is all new age kind of stuff that people are, they're playing around with. But when it comes down to it, you're still dealing with emotions. Yeah. And women like to feel attractive. They like to feel attended to. They like to be protected. They like to feel taken care of. And that's what it's supposed to be. In my mind, I'm 57 years old. I've been dating since I was 16. It's what I learned. It's how I open car doors, send flowers, bring flowers, be complimenting of what they're wearing, so they know that you're paying attention. Not just, playing on your phone and, pressing a button and have their door unlocked. I mean, to me, that's so callous and so cold. And to me, you're not appreciating the company of a woman. And you find a woman that's fun to be around.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, every one of those things that you listed off about being a gentleman and courting, it's crazy from my guy friends, okay, that are single, our age. They will tell me women come at them on in the getting to know each other, texting stage. If they say something about picking them up, women will lash out at them. I've seen them. They've shared some of these text messages or crazy stories.
Where you ask and they get upset that you ask?
Yes.
Well, in a lot of ways, I can understand. I would say, as a rule, the first date I would expect to meet. Yeah. Only because everybody's self-protecting, and you can't be offended if someone says they want to meet you because they don't know who you are. Yeah. Well, I live in a condo, so obviously I have built-in safety. Right. But here's the thing. My perspective as a woman, and I think women, I really would like you to understand this, and men too, is, give us the choice. I think men offer it. And a woman, don't be intimidated. Don't be I can get my own ride. You just softly make your own decision if you're comfortable or not. But that's a man being a gentleman doing that. It's being considerate. It is. And humanity. I mean, in the dating world. And I think society has changed, like I said before. And I think there are women that are just very put off very easily by a man coming across trying to do the traditional way of dating. And I think it's weird. I'm being honest. It amazes me when my guy friends share with me the text messages or conversations they have. I'm like, did you really just say that? I'm like, all you did is offer this. Or, I heard somebody say this, and I thought this was really bizarre. When the check comes, right? I don't care what kind of restaurant you're at. This person said to me, if a man doesn't just put his card down on that check, but actually picks it up to look at it, I will not go on another date with him. And I was like, why? And her perspective was, if I don't want to be with a man that has to look at a check. They can do that when we're dating, but not on the first few dates. And my girlfriend and I were like, okay, you do know people that are successful, that she wanted someone successful in life. And, I understand. I said, people who are generally successful, they watch everything. They pay attention. They pay attention. And if you're in a serious relationship with that person, and it's instead of the guy's money, but it's family money, and someone puts down a check and you're not looking at it, you're not being responsible by saying, am I paying for everything that I ordered, or am I getting screwed over here? Have you, I've picked up my checks and looked it over every single time. And mistakes happen. They forgot to bring an appetizer and they charge you or whatever. Sure. I don't know how any woman could find that off-putting, but it's interesting that little things and subtleties that annoy each other dating in our 50s. I think when we were dating younger, we were a little more carefree, and then, and just, it was chemistry was led because you were at a person's house. You saw this for you, a beautiful woman across the room. You're like, oh, I want to get to know her. And I feel like because it's switched now, and that's not the immediate pull, you have to navigate. Do you do a deep dive on someone before you go out on a first date? I've heard of people that do the cyber stalking and they do all the due diligence. Yeah. I'd like to go with my own first impressions. Yeah. I know that there's people that try to be Magnum PI and figure out the person's last name and where they live, and they go online to find out as much information. Yeah. But I would prefer to get it from the person first. Yeah. And then once I find out they're not telling the truth, or there's something fishy, then obviously you lie, you die, and then I'm done with the relationship. It's not going to work. But I think that you have to be respectful of what people want to share with you, because they're private, and you're a stranger, and you're getting to know them. And the way that they develop a comfort with you is by opening up and sharing their life with you. I mean, sure, they can give you your last name and you can go on Facebook or Instagram and find out all about them, but all you're finding out is what was posted. You're not really finding out any of the real important details. Did they have a boyfriend 3 years ago, and is that guy's picture still on Facebook? Okay, so what?
Would that annoy you?
No, it's because everybody's got a past.
And that's the thing. I dated somebody, and they were extremely offended I wouldn't take down pictures from a 1.5-year relationship. And I'm like, A, we've only been dating 4 weeks. B,
yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting engaged or really serious, I might consider that. But I don't think a person has a right to tell you to erase your past life. I mean, it's what brought me to the table that you're attracted to, or, that's my journey. That's my past. Why do you have the right to tell me to delete it?
Well,
have you ever had a woman kind of like do that?
Yes. In a 4-week relationship, I don't think that you really have a right to demand of anything other than to be honest and respectful. After that, I mean, 4 weeks is a young relationship, and you don't have all that sense of entitlement, because if you think that you do, then you're possessive and you're jealous and you're insecure.
Oh yeah, he was fucked up.
Those are bad signs that you want to be conveying to someone that you're trying to date.
Yeah.
But your history is your history. It makes you who you are.
Yeah.
I don't have women that I've been in relationship pictures around because they're not in my life anymore.
Right.
But they're part of my history, and if people ask, I'll tell them the story.
Right.
They'll know what aspect, how they impacted my life. Me personally, on my Facebook, I've taken all that stuff down because it's not part of my life anymore.
Right.
I made a conscious effort to do that because it's not part of my life. If you want to know about it, you'll ask about it, and I'm happy to tell you about it.
Right.
But my Facebook and my Instagram are, for the most part, happy memories and things that I want to share with people. And if I'm dating somebody else, I might not necessarily want to have all the other women that I've dated in my life on Facebook, because then that creates a lot of questions and a lot of insecurities. And I'd rather have the conversation than have them draw their own conclusions.
I like that. Speaking of insecurities, do you find dating women in their 50s more secure with their sexuality, or do you find when they were in their 20s they were more secure?
I think that women in their late 40s and their 50s are probably the most confident in their sexual being, because for the most part they've been through a couple of serious relationships, been married or engaged, and they developed a confidence in who they are.
Right. I agree. I always say we're like a fine red wine. I mean, it's like...
I'm a big fan of red wine, and the older that it is, the better it tastes, and the better that it looks. But confidence and balance and being real are very attractive qualities in any woman. And you find that women who have lived life, gone through not only the great times, but the hardships, and they've battled back, and they've been those warriors of life where they've overcome, and they developed a mindset and a mentality that they are independent, they're strong, they can handle things.
Right.
It's kind of sexy for them to say, I could take you. If you want to be in my life, I'm happy to have you. But if you don't, I'll move on. Right.
As last question, because we're out of time, what advice would you give to men dating in their 50s from your experience?
Identify with women in your life who are friends. Get to know them as people, understand what they're about, because that type of mindset, that type of mentality is what you want in someone that you're dating, because you're friends with those people. The benefit is the women that you're dating, there's also a physical chemistry as opposed to just a mental connection. And if you can take the mental connection and add the physical chemistry,
it's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is. And on the last note, I'll say, dating in our 50s, we really kind of can hone in on what we want at this point and don't want. And I think that's kind of sexy in and of itself. I find it empowering, actually.
It is. A good friend of mine said, the best thing about my wife is I get to have sex with my best friend.
Oh, I love that statement.
And
that's awesome.
That's amazing.
And we're going to end it there. Having sex with your best friend and your partner that you choose isn't all what we want.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on. You didn't grill me as an attorney, and I appreciate that. But I really appreciate you coming out, and you really touched on some really good points, and thank you for opening up and sharing.
I had a blast. Great being here.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Nicole Chanis, 50s AF Podcast, signing off for now. Keep watching us or listening to us. Take care, guys. Bye.